and welcome to Behind Blackflower. I'm Sarah. I'm the producer of 1968 Blackflower Drive.
And I'm Brett. I'm the writer and director.
We wanted to let you know these are also video podcasts, so please head over to our YouTube channel if you want to check out the visuals. We are excited to bring our listeners some stories and information about what went into making this radio play, so let's dig into all things Behind Blackflower.
Now today we have a very special guest. We have our narrator. We have Phillip Traiton III right here.
Himself.
Our dear friend.
I think we can start off with the fact that this was originally a television series that Brett had written. Very quickly, we realized that this was not something that we would be able to produce ourselves because the scope was so large. So Brett thought, I'm going to turn it into a radio play. When I was told that, I scoffed, laughed, and thought it would be impossible and just a daft idea in general. So we had a read through with a bunch of our friends, and Brett tapped Brian to be our narrator, and so they had spoken about it a little bit before that. I was not a part of those conversations. So we're sitting there for the first read through with five other actors.
Well, it was 5 of us total. Yeah.
5 of us total. And I'm just, okay, humoring my husband.
That's our marriage.
And then Brian opened his mouth and said the very first line from 1968 Blackflower Drive. And in that very moment, all of my doubts were erased. And I knew that this would work.
Wow.
And that we had to move forward. So thank you. Because without you, this wouldn't exist.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
No. Well, the thing about it is that you also do audiobooks, and so you have that the muscle fortitude of like being able to like tell a story and telling it a long story.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you, was it different like doing like an audiobook versus doing this kind of thing, or was it the same?
It definitely helped to have that experience. It was a lot different because when you're doing an audiobook, you're everything. You're the narrator, you're all the characters, and it's for when I do it, it's just continually. You know, I'm not cutting and doing this character and this character. So doing the narrator was pretty easy logistically, because then, except for, you know, when I don't know if I'm spoiling anything, but when we got to episode 9 on the read through,
People should not have listened to episode 9 by now.
not yet. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's not out yet.
No.
Okay, but there was.
Well, it depends when they find us, but.
Right. But yeah,
Something happens.
Something happens where I'm not just doing the narration, and I had different color codings for the different voices that I was doing, and it was just, you know, it was
Right, that also happens in the episode.
I think we can reveal that at some point in the story, Phillip Traiton III moves just from narrating the action and being integrated into the action.
In episode 7, I believe, you start becoming...
Folks still wouldn't have listened to that.
Oh, then never mind.
Okay. But I mean, the story is really, it's about Phillip Traiton III in a roundabout way that you eventually kind of see. You haven't seen it yet. But it's all seeing through the lenses of his eyes, and that's and he's kind of walking you through, and that's what he says in the very beginning. You know, join me.
Join me on my revisitation.
My revisitation.
So let me ask you something too. Now, did you like make a conscious choice, or did you just kind of like leave it be, where you find out in halfway through the first episode that you're dead? that you are a dead person and that you're still telling the story. So like it is a ghost story told by a ghost.
Yeah.
So did that change how you like made things sound, or was it just like that didn't matter? That was almost like an element that's like, okay, well, it's whatever happens.
Oh no, it definitely, in my mind, colored how I was telling it.
From that point?
From that, no, from the beginning. Once because we talked about it.
Yeah.
The character extensively.
Yes.
So, I always had it that, that he's dead. And if you don't know that, you weren't listening in the first episode.
Yeah, that's definitely not a spoiler if you've listened to the first episode at least.
Yeah. And he's kind of reliving these moments, like this has all already happened, the revisitation and all that. So yeah, definitely.
Do you remember the two actors that you posed to me? That you like, what should I base it off of? Which actor, kind of like tone wise?
Oh yeah. What did I mentioned? What Will Patton, right?
Yes, and
That was one.
And was it Sam Elliott? No,
that was the second version.
that was the second version.
That you want like, oh, maybe I'm gonna go one more Sam Elliott. So who's the other one?
Oh, I forget. Who?
Josh Brolin.
Oh,
Was that Thanos?
Thanos.
Yes, because I think everybody does that and thinks immediately Josh Brolin.
Well, that's why I didn't just go like this and then wait for 10 minutes for you to go, do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? But it was Josh Brolin, and I was like...
I was thinking about Josh Brolin in No Country for Old Men.
Right, which was great, and I like that idea that we thought folksy and southern, but I thought Will Patton was a little more offbeat. What are some of the oddest moments of interruptions when we were recording?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. Sarah, what do you think?
Oh, for me, it was one that seemingly wouldn't be a problem, but was consistent for a very long time. That bird. There was a bird one day that was sitting on the pine tree out the window of the room that we recorded in and just chirping for about 30 minutes. And it was that high-pitched sound that just cut through everything. I ended up having to cut it in. It's in the show.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Episode, yeah.
Well, you had the headphones on, so you could hear a pin drop. We didn't have the headphones for our part, but yeah, you could. In fact, look at the stomach rumbling kind of stuff.
Oh, the stomach rumbling. Oh my gosh. It was more often than not me.
Stomach rumblings would happen so much that we'd have to go, let's take a little bit of a break, and we'd have snacks and go take a snack, go get that settled. And it's amazing how much that would do it.
When you're doing that kind of stuff, and the same thing with the audiobooks, it's just the littlest thing, and airplanes, cars.
We definitely had the airplane
Dogs
situation.
barking. But yeah, just external sounds.
The thing. I remember one time we had to break was because I was at a small little part. I just had to yell.
Oh yes,
I yelled, and I was like very tired, and I was still like I was a bit overrun, and so I yelled, and I hyperventilated, and I collapsed, and I fell to the ground. And so I had to do it again, and I was like, I actually almost passed out.
He passed out.
I was like, I almost yeah. It was a good performance, but yeah.
We recorded the narration before we did any of the scene work with the other performers, and
except for episodes 1 and 9.
Yeah, 1 and 9. 1 was all done with everyone in the room together on one day, and 9, half of it is recorded that way.
Yeah.
You'll find out why. But sometimes the heightened performance that you were expecting is not what came out during the recording session.
Yeah,
so
that was...
oftentimes I was like, can we actually, yes, I know this is great direction for Brian and it was a great read. Can we do one that's a little more kind of nuanced, just in case something comes out in the room that isn't what we're expecting? And that actually, it didn't happen often, but I think there were like two scenes where the better performance that you gave as the narrator for this like one particular chunk and the one that was the note you had given him to do just didn't work with what we ended up getting in the room. It wasn't bad. It's just the scene turned into something other than what you had in your brain.
Yeah.
That happened.
Yeah, that's a tightrope that you have to walk, especially since the actual scene wasn't recorded yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what I was hoping was that with the narration would set the tone for the actual scene. I don't know how you did those scenes then. You just did the scenes, or did you let the actors listen to any of the narration?
No, I wanted to keep it clean from that. I just wanted to see what they brought in, and it was actually Sarah who was actually able to figure out, oh, okay, well, this is where the narration is, and this is where the scene is, and then kind of balance that out. And sometimes they match up great, but sometimes it was like, we need to fudge this a bit.
Well, I mean, yeah, you were both totally on top of everything.
Well, I had taken really extensive notes too, so there were times when you had given Brian a specific read, a specific direction, and we would do the scene, and I would kind of say to you, maybe we should get a version that's this, because whether it wasn't something that was coming organically or you had adjusted what you want and not remembered what we'd recorded with Brian, but I knew that you had told him to be really energetic in this point, and I was like, we need to raise this. It was a tightrope.
Yeah.
But for the performers, what we would do is we started out doing just a read through where we'd read the whole scene and I'd read the narration, but we just found that was really time consuming, and honestly we wanted to get everyone in and out, and so we just had everyone read their lines and pause whenever there was narration so that I had something to edit in. And then when there were efforts that the narrator was talking about that we wanted to hear, we would just direct.
So efforts are like if an actor is like they're finding somebody to be like doing that kind of stuff, or they're sobbing or something like that. So those the efforts, like sounds that would be just like vocalizations of an emotional state of something's going on. That's what we have.
Just have them deliver those.
So let me ask you this: I had the very distinct, easy job of following your rhythm. Mm-hmm. So when you would do a narration, and I'm like you're describing like the house or explaining who you are, and then I would play music to your rhythm.
Brett scored this whole extravaganza.
So I would play to your rhythm. Do you think it would be easier to like hear that music, or is it just I don't need that? I could just like do my own thing. You know what I mean?
If I were to hear the music before...
Right. So like if I go, this is the music I want to play while you're doing this, would you?
Yeah, that would have... Yeah, thanks. After the fact. It definitely it would have not really added anything, because what we had talked about with where it was the scene was going to go and what you wanted from the narration. I mean, that was plenty. Either way, but I think did the tone of the narration influence the music at all?
Completely.
Yep.
It was the tone, but also the rhythm. One of our actors said, I want to have the music. And the thing is, if you heard the music by itself, it makes no sense because it's not to like a beat.
Right.
Brett often recorded the score live to listening to the scenes. So he would listen to the scenes in a headphone and play the score live rather than recording something and putting it in, which I think a lot of people do. I don't know. But that's certainly your process.
Well, it's different, and sometimes I would do things that were on a like a tempo, like it would have the click on it, so I would play it to that, and then I would put it to it. But sometimes I would just go, especially with your narration, because you had such a melodic feel to it. It was like more important to feel that out and to play, and so like it would take a couple times sometimes to find where your rhythm is,
Right.
and where the melody plays with your rhythm.
Yeah, what I was trying to go for was that specific cadence of the character in remembrance. Because, okay, think about this. If you're thinking back to a previous time, a specific, incident, and you're kind of feeling it out in your mind, and it's kind of coming through in little pieces. So that's where that came from.
That's
I
great.
love that.
Yeah.
Phillip Traiton III. I was just trying to get that feeling of things coming up as he's talking, rather than it sound like reading off the page.
Right.
I hadn't thought. I mean, this is a testament to how fantastic you are. Is I hadn't thought about that as part of Philip's character, the representation of him. But now that you're saying that, I'm like,
That totally makes sense.
of
Yeah.
course, that's exactly what's going on. Wow.
Yeah.
Well done, you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That coupled with my 5th grade reading skills.
That. No, that's not what this is about.
It was very
Oh,
funny.
there's a little interruption. I forgot to turn the refrigerator
On the
off.
refrigerator.
I think that's beautiful. I would put so much alliteration, I guess, in it that sometimes you would just look at me when we were reading, and you'd be like reading it, and you just go like, "Really? Really? That's what you're doing to me right now? All right, I'll do it." But
Yeah,
So-
Brett is a fan of alliteration.
Yeah.
I don't know why I am, but I am totally a fan of it. And you were such a trooper about doing that whole and just going through.
Yeah.
Which-
Yeah.
Brett has to do a little bit of that at some point, and
Won't spoil it.
rued the day that he
I
had
was
written
so-
that stuff.
I was so upset about that. I did do a bunch of dialogue one day in episode 9, and that was another interruption. That's one of my favorite interruptions.
Oh yeah.
There was an ice cream truck
the ice cream truck.
that played
Yes.
An hour.
Turkey in the Straw. And like it played for like 45 minutes.
Oh.
And we were like,
Unbeknownst to us, a child's party across the street. Now, why the ice cream truck couldn't park and turn that
Turn off the music.
10-second
I don't need
loop
to
of
hear
a song
Turkey in the
off
Straw over and over
is
again.
beyond me. Anyway,
So
we digress.
But we're going back to outside noises. Last week, you had asked me to re-record a couple of things.
Oh, right.
Narration. It's like 4 lines. I'm like, okay. I don't really have to set too much up, so I'm in my dining room at home. And I'm ready to go, and it's like 5:30, and it was raining. So I'm hearing cars in the rain outside of my balcony. My refrigerator was running. I had to sit there. I just sitting there, waiting for the refrigerator to finish cycling before I recorded that.
It sounded great.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I've cut it in. It's great.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh okay. Yeah, I meant to ask you about that.
Yeah.
No.
Brett rewrote a scene, which rewrote all of the narration that we had recorded.
Oh, right.
And so the next time we had Brian over, we had him record the new narration. However, I gave him the original script. So that's why we needed you to do it last week.
Oh, I see.
When I started editing it, I was like,
It was
no, oh my gosh, no.
That's why, okay. See, I thought I screwed something up.
No.
And that's another thing I want to talk about. After the initial table read, we talked about the narration.
Yeah, that's my question.
And cutting out, like, did I really have to say he picked up a glass and took a drink? You know, that kind of thing. Because it was, like you said, it was originally written as a screenplay or a teleplay or however you wanted to do it. So there was a lot of stuff that we cut out that I thought was superfluous and it wasn't needed because it was being acted out. And then he took a sigh, and then he
Right.
Well,
stuff like that.
I feel like that was actually really collaborative because it was like certainly a lot of that became I can't think of the word, apparent. A lot of that became apparent to us after the reading that, the performers are going to actually give us a lot of this description.
And it's also trusting
And
the
then
audience to know, that's what would naturally happen.
Yeah, and we never wanted to just assume that our audience wouldn't be paying full attention. But, well, no, because people that take in media and story and storytelling right now, they're, really aware. And so you don't have to pander to anyone.
Well,
But,
we hope.
no, I think so. Maybe not you two, but no. But so, as I was saying, the initial pass we did the read through that became very apparent to us. But then even going on, so you would come into a session for an episode, and you would have notes for that episode. I don't feel like I need to say that, and then sometimes we would agree, and then sometimes we'd say, no, we actually really want you to say it. And we've used those times because, yes, we have had the person making that noise or doing that effort or that sound effect has happened, but having the narrator say it at the same time has added some real dramatic import on occasion.
Yeah, for
and
certain
so it was
things.
certainly something, and then again, stuff that we did record, I've taken out in the edit because I didn't end up needing it.
Right, yeah, you can always fix it in post. But can you imagine an actor coming in and saying, we should scrap these lines and scrap these lines? Instead of saying, give me more lines.
You had plenty of lines though.
Oh,
I
there
don't
were
think
plenty.
you were hurting for dialogue.
We only had one actor request that we not have them say a line.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
But only one, and it was something I just said, for me it's always been the kind of thing where if an actor says, I don't want to say this line because I don't feel like I want to say this line, versus I don't think the character would say this.
Oh, okay.
It was never that
It's
case, because it's
personal.
then I go, that's fine if you don't do that. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I think it was episode 7 that you were like, hey, I want to play this part. Because you mainly only played a narrator at this point. And this is you're isolated from the rest of the cast.
Right.
Is it the kind of thing you wanted to just play a different part, or you wanted to be part of the cast, or what was your...
You pitched pretty hard.
Yeah.
Pretty hard.
There was
And then auditioned.
Pressure.
Yeah, I
We
sent,
got
yeah,
audition
Set an audition
tapes.
set.
I sent in an audition.
So what was the thinking?
Well, you needed someone to play the part. We
That is true.
talked about it. I'm like, I can do this. Now, between the narration and the Phillip Traiton character, which shows up later on in different iterations, I just figured, there's there's this scene you need somebody, or like with the Amish.
That's right. You also
Amish
played
man.
that.
Yeah, the Amish
Well,
man.
we played Amish Man, robot voice.
The robot boy.
100 BPM.
Right. Oh yeah, that was heavily
Filtered. Oh yeah.
heavily
Yes.
filtered. That sounded pretty cool. If I didn't know it was me, I wouldn't know it was me.
Well, there you go. Maybe other people didn't know it was you.
So, but yeah, the British, was it a TV
TV host.
TV host.
Host.
Yeah.
That was character
Just
name.
host.
Host.
Yes.
Yeah.
Robert Host, I believe.
That I was like, oh, this could be fun. Not that it wasn't already fun to do the rest of this.
Well, but it got you in the room.
Yeah.
Interacting with someone else.
Yeah, because it was all up to that point, narration only, and is it episode 4? Is the interview with Lee, with old man?
No, that's episode 7.
That's 7. Is it that?
Oh, it is. It is 7.
It's 7.
Oh, is it aired yet?
Folks haven't heard that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Because the whole process of this whole thing, it was like I wrote it as a 6-episode thing, and then COVID hit, and I watched a bunch of series, and I was so angry when a series that like gave a bunch of like questions didn't answer them.
Right.
So I said, I know.
And that's where the original storyline had posed all of these really interesting mysteries, but failed to answer like 75% of them.
So I just said, like, I want to go back now and answer those questions because I know the answers.
Right.
So I said, like, let's go back, and that's why it's like 7, 8, 9 explain a lot of what's going on.
So that's maybe something for our listeners and viewers to look forward to. They now know that they will not get to the end of this series without having the majority of the mysteries solved.
Yes, there's still some mysteries that are going to be in there because that's the world of it. But otherwise,
I can't remember now. Is there an explanation to the wasp?
yes.
There is. Okay. I don't remember.
Well, it's not directly explained, but it's hinted at.
Okay.
It's hinted at, and there is a resolution.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think is just as valuable as answering, or half as valuable as answering. Like, at least you don't go,
Right.
why?
Why was that?
Why
there?
was
Right.
that?
I also don't want to explain everything because sometimes when an audience member listens to something and they have a really interesting version of what they heard and how they explain it, and I go, that's just as valid.
Well, and I think that's really important in this kind of format too, because our listeners are just hearing stuff. We're kind of handing them the keys to build the visual world themselves. So why take that away from
True.
people? That's kind of part of it.
Yeah, and listening to it now with everything included, with the music and the bowling, it's really painting a picture in my head of these scenes, scenes at the house in the episode 3 at the trailer park with Kelvin, Ken. Great job, excellent job, Kenny, on that.
Definitely.
And yeah, I mean the cast that you got, which were like 99.9% all friends, right?
Probably 90%. We were able to get some new people that we hadn't worked with
Yeah.
before, and then
Like Sahil,
Sahil and Amy
and
Braddock
Mario,
and
yeah.
We mentioned, and if I haven't, I'll mention it now, that at some point in the storyline, Philip is not only narrating the action, but becomes integrated with the action.
Right.
And action that takes place in various times of Philip's life. And death.
Yeah, and the story, I never saw the story as being about Phillip Traiton, but he was the impetus.
Yes.
He was the catalyst.
So now, when you came in and we talked about how like it was in episode 7 when Lee is talking with you, and you were like, you came in with this voice, And it was just like, and afterwards it was like, that was amazing. That's exactly what I wanted. That was great. And he said, and I believe you were like, I didn't even know what I was going to do. I just opened my mouth and it came out.
More or less.
Is that what happened? So you just kind of came in and went like, I know in the back of my mind what I want to do, but I'm not going to, work it out. I'm just going to see what happens.
Oh, no, yeah, no, I didn't rehearse it. It's not like I was sitting in front of a mirror or anything, but I knew where the character was in that episode of the Lee interviews, and
that doesn't terrify you to go in? That terrifies me to go in saying like, I know what I want to do. Let's see what happens. And you just go, you're able to just go in there and kind of go, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I had enough of a grasp of the character and where he was going, where he'd been, and what I can do personally.
I'm freaking out right now. I'm in awe that you can do that. But so you knew what you wanted to do. You just did it?
Yeah. It just had it in my head of what I wanted that to sound like and feel like. That iteration of the character. He was, I don't want to give too much away, but not dead.
Right.
At that point. Close.
Yeah. So now, as a musician, because he's also a phenomenal musician, is it the same kind of thing where you're going like, let's just do it, let's just go in and play, or is it different?
It's different. It's different because then you have more external forces at work, meaning your own limbs, and what you can make them do as far as music.
Right. I don't know. I actually have to take you to task on this because I've played with you a bunch, and you are the kind of person that just goes. You've told me about how you've been with in bands where they go, we're going to 7/8 now. Okay, we're doing 7/8 now. Oh, all right, back 6/8 now. Okay, and then you're able to jump.
Right, but that's nothing that I hadn't done before. Up until that point, I had done those things before and just kind of put them together. With Phillip Traiton, there was no rehearsal on my part to get it ready. It just all in my head. But as a musician,
Brett's mind is blown.
I'm kind of like cracking. I'm cracking.
Yeah, as a musician, you never try something new on the day as a musician. But it's always something that you've already done, and you put it together. Maybe not in that particular order, but it's not like you're on the stage in front of the crowd and like I'm going to try this. No, that never happens. You don't do that.
I think I have. And I think maybe, and it's like it's a hit or miss. It's just like, but that's an interesting thing. But so acting is different that way, where you kind of have to really do something completely new.
Oh sure, yeah, you can. I think it's easier to be spontaneous in that area. But as acting this Phillip Traiton. As far as being audio, you do have certain advantages over video, over doing it with visual. There's no blocking. There's no
You don't have to memorize your dialogue.
You don't have to memorize anything.
No.
Which is great. Great. I'm just looking at my laptop screen the whole time.
When you're doing the narration, were you thinking about talking to someone in particular, or just like an audience?
That's a good question.
That's why I asked it.
I had the thought of Sunset Boulevard, of the movie Sunset Boulevard, with William Holden, who's narrating the film. He's dead, and he's telling the story to whomever is paying attention or can listen. And that's kind of where I approach that. And going back to the voice references, I mean, I wasn't doing a Will Patton impression. It was more the tone. The tone of the character I used as that template, and a little bit of Josh Brolin, a little bit of Sam Elliott, and that inviting, or trying to invite the audience in to listen.
So we've kind of come full circle talking about the voice references, where this started. Is there anything else you folks want to discuss?
And you had a couple of times, okay, can we take that line again, but it's a little more intense, or like you said, this part, this part's funny. Or you don't really understand what you're seeing here.
Right.
Yeah. That was fun.
Which is hilarious because it was like I remember that specifically was because, and it was the part that you were playing, because you were hosting.
It was the scene where you play the host.
Where you play the host.
And Philip doesn't understand what is happening.
Does not understand that you're talking about what that's about. And so it's very funny that it got very meta.
Yeah.
At that point we're going, I don't understand. You're that part though. Yeah. It's like, but you're playing that, yeah. And so I think that's a funny thing to play with, especially since we have so many characters and a limited cast.
Yeah.
So some things are going to fold in on itself like that, which is great. And you played with that really well. That
and who doesn't want to do a Doctor Strangelove multiple character type of thing? That's fun.
The weird thing about also what you had to do was you had to play a part, one character, but in different stages.
Yeah.
So like a young version, an older version, a dead version, a depressed version. So like all these different like states of being. And I thought you played them beautifully.
Yeah, I think you as Philip, you as Perry, because we see Perry, episode, is that 3? Mm-hmm. Yes, folks have listened
all
to
the
3.
Interviews, yeah.
Yeah, all the interviews. So, and Violet, I think, are the only characters that we see kind of grow in different stages, or here.
Yeah, Violet plays 13, 17,
and an undisclosed later number.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
And it's not just a change of pitch in the voice for older versus younger. It's also the mental state, and the attitude, and is the character more cynical here? Is the character more naive here? More hopeful?
And also how to get that across with only your voice.
Yeah.
Too, which we had to work on with Perry. Because for Perry's first interview in episode 3, he's young, early 20s, late teens or something, and it was...
You gave a great direction on that one.
I did give a very good direction on that one. I gotta say that, because I'm terrible at directing and I don't like it. We were struggling to get your voice sounding younger, and so we opted to... I had him stumble over big words. It was like, Perry wants to speak with authority, and so he's choosing to speak with all of these big words, but maybe he doesn't really know how to say them.
What I got from that, and it was a great job, what I got was that Perry was definitely over his head.
Thank you very much, Brian, for doing this. Thanks so much for also being a part of this. You are such an important, integral part of the story of 1968 Blackflower Drive. And I thank you very much for being a part of it.
Definitely.
Yes.
It has been my absolute pleasure to work on this.
So let me ask you one last thing.
Yeah.
Season 2, where do you see your character going?
If you have any questions, if they're about season 2, unlikely to answer them. But if you do have any questions, feel free to email us at pryzonsbreak@gmail.com. Spelling's kind of weird, so you can find that on our socials. We have the email address and our website, so you can get in touch with us. Follow us on our socials. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook at 1968.bfd, and we're on YouTube at 1968bfd without the dot. Follow us, like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, hit the notification bell, do
all of those things.
Smash the button.
1968 Blackflower Drive can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Acast, our website, YouTube, pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you keep listening.